So my name is Kelly Richardson, and I own HR2U. We are an HR consulting company that helps small businesses recruit and retain their employees through several different methods, mainly focusing on compliance and some other things when it comes to staffing. So how many of you have employees in this room? Several, right? And that's all of our, I think most of our goals when we open up a small business is to not only fund our lives, but to also enrich other people and have employees and have our business grow through over time. So how do you do that effectively? How do you keep your employees happy and stay out of risk when it comes to laws, regulations, things like that? So I'm going to go through 10 keys to high-performing teams. So number one is to have a well-defined corporate culture. So how many of you guys, without looking at your business plan that you created, we all created a business plan, right? How many of you guys could recite your culture, your values, your mission, your vision, and your goals without looking back? Nobody? Nobody? Oops. So how do you live by that in your business? Because that's the point of creating those, is to have those to live by, to run your business with. A little saying I have that goes along with this is, if you stand for nothing, you will fall for everything. And I'm sure as business owners, some of us have done that. We forget about our vision, we forget about our mission and our goals, and somebody presents us this great idea that'll enhance our business and a new service to add on. But it doesn't fit in line with that. But we're, oh yeah, I want to do that too. So now you got all these things going on, where if you would have stuck with what you had and your initial vision, mission, and goals, you wouldn't have gotten into those other sidelines, other paths, if you will. And you want to do that when you're hiring, and you want to create that, you want to live by that before you even add employees. You want to put that structure into place when you're creating your documents and everything else. So really, you got to know these things, live by it, and have that be part of your daily life within your business, okay? Another thing, so yeah, I'll use my other. So then you also need to have clearly documented team guidance. So again, before you even entertain the idea of hiring a single staff member, you need to have a clear employee handbook, descriptions of your jobs, and all your policies and procedures that you can think of. Obviously, there's going to be things that come up as, roles enhance and as more duties are assigned, or as you add more clients. But you really want to have a lot of this documented. And again, these things go back to your vision, mission, and goals, right? Because how can you create a handbook if you don't know what your corporate culture is going to be? Because your handbook should be a living, breathing document that embodies your corporate culture, okay? So you really want to put all that into place before you even hire a single person. And then this one is really tricky. It is effective leadership, okay? So you may be the most brilliant entrepreneur in the world, but are you a good leader, okay? Are you the right person to lead that team that you're going to hire? How many of you in this room have worked for a bad manager? No matter how much training or anything they went through, they're not a good manager. Just plain and simple. There's some things you can teach and some things you can't. So as a business owner, you really need to sit back and really assess your skills as a leader and find out if you're the right person to run that team. And if you're not, you're still the great business person, you find somebody great to lead that team. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a lot of money down the line and turnover and other employee issues, okay? So a great example I have of this is Uber, right? We had a CEO, visionary, he was amazing. Was he a good leader? No, right? He was doing like sexual harassment out the yin-yang, yelling at drivers. I mean, there's stories after stories after stories. He's obviously no longer the leader there. But just because you're the great visionary does not mean that you're the best leader. And it's okay to say that. And it's probably a lot more strong of you to say, you know, I'm a bad leader, let me get somebody else to do that piece, than to let your business fail. Okay? And then employee retention. So that's the number one soft cost that employers face. Everything else is a line item: taxes, payroll, benefits, you know, all those things are expenses that you know you're incurring when it comes to having employees. The one that everybody overlooks is employee retention. Turnover is estimated about 20% of somebody's annual salary. So if you have a position that pays $35,000 a year, which is about, you know, $15 to $16 an hour, and it turns over twice in 1 year, that is costing your business $14,000 on top of that salary. Okay? So employee retention and turnover is a really hard cost. So again, you want to make sure you have the right leadership in place, because a lot of times that's the issue. But you want to also make sure, going back to your mission, vision, and goals, that you're hiring with those in mind. Do you know how to effectively recruit? Do you know how to screen for that kind of information to ensure that that person not only has the skills to do the job, but that they're fitting within the culture that you've defined? Okay? Because a cultural fit is just as important as a skill fit. And if somebody doesn't fit culturally, they're not going to last within your organization, period. You know, we're at work just as much as we are at home, with our families, or anything else. And if you hate where you work and the people that you work with because you don't fit in with them, you're not going to stay there, right? So we've all experienced that at one point in our working lives, I'm sure, where it's just not a cultural fit. So that's really what business owners need to be screening for more than anything else. And I can help you define the questions that can help with that. So, oops. And that goes to our hiring practices. So, bad hiring leads to high turnover. Hiring that leads to low turnover. You want to also set realistic expectations. You know, that hiring process is almost, I call it like dating, right? So you want to make sure you're the right fit for them, and they need to make sure that you're the right fit also within their goals. And so if you go on a first date with somebody and you tell them you make $1 million and you drive a Maserati, this, that, and the other, and then you show up and pick them up and you're like in this beater little car and you don't have a job, are you gonna go back out with them? No. So if you go on an interview with somebody, with a company, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're awesome, and we have all this, and we do this, and then you go to work there, and then you realize that was all fluff in their head, are you gonna continue to work for that company? No. So you need to you need to be honest. I'd rather have honesty and tell a candidate, look, I'm a startup. You know, I need somebody that's this, that, you know, and that enjoys that startup mentality. There's people out there that do. There's people out there that don't need benefits. Tell them, be honest. Say, you know, we don't have benefits right now. It's going to be, you know, 2 or 3 years before we do. Are you okay with that? You have to be honest with candidates, or they're just going to walk out the door. Okay? So that's part of it. And then onboarding them correctly. Don't just throw, oh, here's your computer. Nice, see a piece. You know, really teach them about the organization. Onboard them. So then we have compliance. Everybody loves compliance, right? Yay. And just as David was saying, not complying is a time bomb, number one. There's so many pieces that you need to focus on. And I don't expect any business owner to know these and recite these. That's what I'm here for. That's what I do. I go to seminars. I read law. That's what you know, that's my specialty. That's my focus. Because there's state, local, and federal laws. How many of you guys in this room know that in Nevada, we added 4 new employment, we updated 2 and added 2 new employment posters in July alone. In July alone. How many of you guys know about the new law that goes in effect for all employers in January? Every single employer. What is it? Domestic violence leave. You have to, only eligibility is that an employee has to be employed for 90 days. And then they're eligible for, again, I have it full, it doesn't go into January, so I haven't done, it's like 160 hours in a year eligible for leave. And that could be intermittent leave or lump sum, you know, yeah. And all they have to do is say they've, you know, facing some sort of domestic violence or abuse. So, and you may not see that. It could be mental abuse that they need to get away from. So just because somebody doesn't come in with a black eye doesn't mean they're not eligible, right?
So they changed the whole law.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that goes into effect in January. So, and then in June, the Assembly enacted the Pregnancy Workers Fairness Act, which came with a poster that needed to be hung immediately, but they didn't put it out for like a month. So it's available now. So that one's fun too. So when it comes to compliance, but yeah, so you have state, local, and federal laws that need to be implemented into your policies. So all your policies need to be compliant with all of these different laws, and as they change, they needed to be changed. Job postings. You have to be really careful when you put up your job postings and ensure that they are compliant with all the state, federal, and local laws, okay? I talked to a investigator at the EEOC. So your postings can't they can't say male or female. It needs to be generic as to what you're looking for, right? So they have a person who lives in a different state that gets our newspaper every day and looks for ads that say waitress, files a complaint against every single one of them, okay? And half of the companies settle with this person. We have the busiest EEOC office in the United States. Half of our cases have to go to Hawaii and other jurisdictions to be worked on by the EEOC because they just can't handle the volume here. So, you know, are your postings compliant? Are you interviewing compliantly? You know, there's lots of questions you can't ask in an interview. It is illegal to ask somebody if they have a car. Do you have a car? Can you make it to work? But you can ask if they have reliable transportation, blah, 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 blah. You can't ask them if they're married. You can't talk about their heritage, their background. So do you know this? Are you educated on this to keep your company out of trouble? And again, like I said, non-compliance is a ticking time bomb. As David said, there's no way to guarantee that you'll never have a lawsuit, but we can help protect you and keep you out of that hot water. Then we have wage and hour compliance. This is what affects most small businesses because there's a lot of little pieces to it. Have you written job descriptions? Do you know how to tell if a position is hourly versus salary? Do you have independent contractors working for you that aren't independent contractors? Right? It's all good until somebody complains, right? And then what happens when they complain? Then you go through all this testing, you face all these fines, attorney's fees, and back wages. So I have a case, or an example of an employer that had 5 employees. That's it. It's not a huge employer. 5 employees. 3 of them were misclassified as salary instead of hourly. Their testing went back 3 years between and they were only really working 1 to 2 hours of overtime a week. 1 to 2 hours a week. 3 years cost this company over $350,000. And it gets worse if you're an independent contractor misclassification, because then you have to pay all their back taxes that you should have been withholding. You're now liable for that. And in the state of Nevada, I don't know if you are aware, but if you have 1 employee, you need to provide workers' comp insurance, and that's a statute. And so if you misclassify an independent contractor who should be an employer and you don't have workers' comp, then you can be facing a misdemeanor as a business owner. So there's so many little things. So many little things. And then termination. So a lot of people think that just because we're in this right to work state, they can say, you're fired, you know, I no longer need your services, I don't have a reason, Goodbye, right? That's the worst thing you can do. Not document somebody, get really frustrated, and just terminate them. Why? Anybody? Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons. But the number one is, if you don't have a reason why something happened, what do you do as an individual? What do we all do? If something happens and you don't have a reason, what do you do?
Personalize it.
Yeah, personalize it and you make up a reason. So if they had been documenting you and saying, Jane, your performance isn't great. Jane, it's not improving. Jane, we're going to have to separate employment. Boom, done. But if they just say one day, Jane, sorry, it's not working out. You have no idea why. You're going to say, oh, it's because I'm a woman. It's because I'm over 40. It's because of all these other things, instead of for the actual performance, right? And you as an employer have to prove that it's not for the reason that they're making up. That's your proof. How do you prove that? Because you have no documentation. So yeah, it is an at-to-will, right-to-work state. You can say, peace, love ya, goodbye, any day. But is that really the right move for you as a business? Should you be taking that extra liability on a termination? And as Damien said, there were, 91,000 cases in the EEOC in 2016, okay? 91,000 EEOC claims in 2016. Again, we're the busiest office. So do you want to be one of those numbers? And then creating a great employee engagement program. So once you get them, once you have them on board, do you have something to engage them? Do you have something to reward them? Do you have, and then they don't need to be great things. They could be, hey, you exceeded sales. You did great. You were on time all week. Here's some movie tickets. But creating a formalized program to reward individuals is really what's going to keep them engaged and happy with you as an employer and the business, okay? So we want to enlist the partnership of an HR professional and be proactive versus reactive. You can call when you have an issue, or you can set up the policies, practices, and procedures before those issues arise, so that when they do, you have your backup. You're ready for it. When you have an audit, you have a state agency come in, you know exactly what to do and how to react to it. And actions you can take now. So, does your business have a defined mission, vision, and goals? Could you recite them if you are asked? And are you living them daily in your business? Okay? Think about it. Does your business have an employee handbook and documented policies? When were these last reviewed and updated? What is your review process? Do you have a formalized review process? Have you updated your employee documents and policies to comply with recent legislative changes affecting Nevada businesses, like I talked about? And in the event that you have an employee termination disciplinary issue, where will you seek professional HR consultation to ensure your decisions and actions are legally compliant? Okay? So those are some really big key takeaways. The other thing I tell people is, just because you've been in business I don't just work with new businesses. I work with existing businesses too. Just because you've been in business for a long time doesn't mean you aren't making errors. They just haven't been uncovered yet. I've never walked into a business that was 100% compliant, ever. So, really take the steps and see, what you might be missing and decrease those liabilities as much as possible. So, and again, they're in your workbook. You can go to the page, and it has a few of these questions to think about. But really think about it and see where your gaps might be. So, any questions? Anyone? All right. Thank you.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I know HR departments are usually in large corporations. What can you do for the small ones?
So,
How does what you do, help small businesses?
Well, that's a great thing. Like, yes, small businesses don't have the need for an HR department, right? But I have the experience of being in one of those corporate HR departments. So why does every big business have them and not small businesses? They're there to protect the business and to help them flourish and and grow and be part of that strategic planning process. And so, yeah, every large organization has them. Why don't small businesses have them? Why don't, so that's what I do is I'm, supporting several small businesses that just don't have the need and the staffing for an HR department, but they need the resources and the help. So yeah, I go in and I audit, make sure that they have everything that they need, help them write policies, procedures, handbooks, all that fun stuff. And recruiting. Because recruiting is where most people get tricked up because they just don't know enough to how to do it effectively. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people think, you touched on a great point, a lot of people think their business plan, a business plan is just for funding issues. So if you don't need funding, then you don't need a business plan, and that's 100% false. Your business plan is your guide and your roadmap, and it contains, like I said, your mission, vision, and values, and your goals. It's what gets you, it's where you look to make sure you're on path and to stick within your path. So again, all right. Well, thank you. If you guys if you want to ask me some questions afterwards, I'll be more than happy to talk to you.